Hello and welcome to another Ask Nerida Joy video. It is nice to be back and we have Kritika here with us again. This is Kritika's third facial with us. And if you remember back to the first facial, Kritika's complaints were, number one, that she had the larger brown spot on the side of her face, over here, and then she had a very small one on the other side by her eye. And also just in the tone of her skin. Her skin, she was a little bit blotchy, so she had a little bit of melasma. And so we wanted to sort of tighten and brighten her skin as well as really help her with her brown spots. So we started her on her home care regimen, which was using retinols and just starting to build and strengthen her skin because retinols are such a great prep for the skin for home care. So we had her using her retinol, she was using her Q Flavonoid, and so she was really feeding and nurturing the skin a lot, which was great. And then when she came back, which was 3 weeks after her first, we did her second shoot 3 weeks after the first one. And then I introduced to her the little bottle of the declearing gel. And this one is something that's especially for brown spots. So we had her prep it, the first treatment. The second one, we then started her on the declearing gel. And so this is now the third treatment. So we are seeing the results of her using the declearing gel. And if you can see closely on her brown spot, that we can see that it's still a similar size. It might be just a little bit smaller, but what I'm really noticing with Kritika's brown spot is, especially on the center and 3/4 of the brown spot, it's a lot lighter. So it has definitely started to fade on the inside of the brown spot. And remember, we were saying when we first started with the Kritika that getting rid of brown spots is really difficult because it's easy sometimes to lighten them a little bit, but then you've got to maintain it. You've got to keep them lighter. So what is really important for Kritika to be doing at home is, yes, she needs to be using her retinols and her lightening and brightening products, which have the arbutin and the kojic acid and licorice extract and all those fabulous ingredients, but she really needs to be diligent with her sunscreen. And so what I say to people is that when you put your sunscreen on, you put it all over your face, and then you go back with your sunscreen and you apply it an extra coating on the spot, and maybe even 2 or 3 extra coatings on the spot. So every time she leaves the house, she has to have sunblock on. And then if you wear makeup as well, that's another protection because a lot of makeup does have sunscreen in it. So for any of your clients that are wanting to lighten the skin, or for you non-esties out there that are wanting to lighten your brown spots, it's really important that you use sunscreen, and a sunscreen has to be at least an SPF 40. And remember too that it's all about the application. If you're just going to use a small amount on the face, then maybe it's not an SPF 40. To maintain an SPF of whatever the SPF factor is that you have, we are supposed to be applying it every 20 minutes. And of course, none of us are doing that. So you want to make sure that before you leave the house that you're really putting a good amount on the skin, and keep layering it, put it on, because it's the only way you're going to keep your brown spots away. It's very hard when you're working with melasma and freckles and brown spots to keep it all at bay. So for me, myself, I'm very fair. I have a lot of freckles. I've lightened them tremendously. But if I go in the sun without my sunscreen on and my makeup that also has a sunscreen in it, they will come back. They will get darker again. So it's a constant thing that we have to deal with once you have brown spots, always. So the way to do that is just constantly be taking care of it, using the treatment products that we know lighten and brighten brown spots, but then maintain it by putting on your SPF, and it should be at least an SPF 40. So we've lightened up Kritika's a little bit, but this is an ongoing thing. And as you saw in Azura's tapes as well, her videos that we did, when you're dealing with melasma, it is a constant battle, and it's the most difficult thing for us esties to get rid of, or certainly to lighten up. So in many cases, you can get rid of it 100%. And I used to have melasma myself, the pregnancy mask when I was pregnant, and I did get rid of it 100%. But if it's something that you don't treat correctly, you will have it ongoingly and it'll never go. So it is really important that you're very diligent with your treatment products at home, but also with your sunscreen. So we're going to keep going with Kritika's skin. We've lightened it a little bit here, but we will have her back again in a couple of months because I want her to spend a good amount of time just really trying to lighten her brown spots. So come the next treatment that we do on Kritika, which will be her last, we'll have her back in a couple of months. I want you to be able to see what 2 more months of working with the clearing gel, for instance, and her retinols is going to do and how much it's going to lighten her skin. So, so we're going to start with her treatment today. This one over here on the small spot over here by her right eye is definitely lighter too. It's probably about 30, maybe 40% lighter than when we started. It's a very light brown spot. This one over here is a lot lighter than the one over here. But we can see she's still peeling a little bit there because this declearing gel is a product that is especially for brown spots. It's a spot treatment. If you have melasma or you have freckles all over the face, you can also use it all over, but just a couple of times a week, and then go back and be more diligent on the actual spots themselves. So we've probably lightened this one, maybe I would say it might be about 30% lighter on the center. It's not anymore. It could be somewhere between 25-30% lighter. So we're just going to keep going with it so that you can see how much better we can get her brown spots just by her home care regimen. So we're going to start with her treatment today. Her skin, you know, we're getting into the cooler months, the winter months. And so what happens to the skin when we start to get into the cooler months is that our skin is drier. We have to protect more. You have to layer. Don't be afraid to layer your treatment creams, your treatment serums. It requires a little bit more because the weather's very harsh. And if you live in a place where it's very windy, that is extremely hard on the face where when it's windy outside, so you've got a cold air. If you're a snow skier, that type of lifestyle is really hard on your skin. So not only do you need to be protecting it from the environment, but you need to be really hydrating it and nourishing it and just really protecting it in a way that you've got levels. Like you should be able to feel you've got cream on your skin. So when you leave the house, when you touch your face, it should almost feel a little bit sticky because that's what's going to protect your skin from the environment. So not only do you need treatment products that are really going to hydrate your levels underneath, but you need it on top. You need that protective layer on top that's going to help to protect your skin and hydrate it. So Kritika's skin looks really good. Her skin is not as blotchy. If you look back to when we first started with Kritika in her first video, she used to have more melasma down here on the side, so she has a lot brighter skin now. Her skin is much healthier. Her pore size is a little bit smaller than I remember too, but more importantly, her forehead lines too are lighter. They're not as deep as they were because she is being really diligent with her home care regimen. But as I said, as we get into the winter months, we really want to have her protecting her skin so that we can feel she's got product on her skin, and that's very important. So we're going to get started. I'm going to cleanse off her skin and we're going to start her treatment. We're cleansing here with our gel cleanser. Now because Kritika is her skin type is what we call a combination dry skin. So she has more dryness than she does oil. A combination dry means little oil and more dry areas on the face. Kritika could also use a milky cleanser. That would also be something she could use on her skin, especially in the winter months. There's nothing wrong with changing up your cleansers just to accommodate the environment and the weather. So it's nice to have a couple of cleansers, and sometimes you might start with a milky cleanser as your first cleanse and use a different one as your second cleanse, and that's also absolutely fine to do. So this one here's the gel cleanser that we're putting on her. I'm going to add a little bit more to my hands. I do get asked about toners a lot, and do I feel that toners are a necessity? And I will say that I don't prescribe toners very often to people, and the reason being is I don't feel it's necessary. If you are a drier skin like Kritika, and if she wanted to use a treatment toner on her skin, I would recommend something that maybe had a little bit of vitamin C, or something that she could use in the daytime after her cleanse, just to put another coat on her skin, because we know vitamin C is something that gives an extra sun protection as well. It aids in giving that little bit extra to protect your skin from the sun, but it's also a treatment on the skin. And so a treatment toner I tend to prescribe more for a drier skin, but for oily skins I don't usually recommend toners. And as I said, most toners for oily skins are drying, and as you know, I'm not about drying out an oily skin, because if you dry out an oily skin, the congestion we know gets stuck underneath, and it's not great to do that. So I am interested in toners that are treatments on the skin, that are either hydrating, or some of the hydrating mists that are also wonderful on the skin, the hyaluronic acid, just anything that's a moisture binder to add an extra layer, especially in the winter months. I'm all for that, and I think that that's where I will say I do like toners for that reason. But I don't like them as an extra form of a cleanse for a lot of people, because a lot of people that use toners as an extra cleanse, and they say, well, I'm just going to use a toner because I always get residue of my makeup or something on a toner, so it means you're not cleaning your skin right. So don't be lazy with your cleansing. If you're getting residue off on your cotton from your toner, then you're not cleaning your skin right. So if you need to see how to clean your skin correctly at nighttime, then I have a video on how to cleanse your skin. And it is cleansing your skin twice. So massaging in your cleanser, getting that warm, wet washcloth, taking your first cleanse off onto that washcloth, and then repeating it. In the second cleanse, you're rinsing it off with lukewarm water. So it's really important to cleanse your skin correctly, and don't sort of be half-hearted with your cleanser and then go back with your toner and wonder why you still have product on your cotton pad. It's very important to make sure that you're cleansing correctly. Do put effort into that. It is 50% of your regimen. It's very important that you cleanse correctly. If you set up a dry slate and you're using a foaming cleanser and it makes your skin feel tight and squeaky clean, then that's not good either, because that dry slate won't allow oil or any congestion in your skin to get out, and nor will it allow treatment product to get in. So it's very, very important that you cleanse really well at nighttime. It is, as I said, 50% of your regimen. So I'm a huge fan on cleansing well. So we've just cleansed Kritika's skin, and I'm going to put on an exfoliant. The exfoliant I'm going to use on her is the exfoliating mask. The great thing about the exfoliating mask is it is a papaya enzyme. It has a little lemon powder in it. It's an enzyme, and you can add healing gel to it if someone's really sensitive. You can have it be a little bit stronger on someone whose skin is maybe a little bit more oily and needs a good exfoliation, or you can lighten it up and half its strength by using a little bit of healing gel or just diluting it. Now, whenever you add steam to an exfoliant, you're going to find that it's going to activate your exfoliant. It's going to make it sting a little bit more. So it's important to be aware of that. And I very rarely use steam with an exfoliant, because I don't want to set up sensitive skin before I get started with my treatment, because then I'm going to want to do other stronger things later in my treatment. So I really don't want to have a sensitive slate to start with. So this is the exfoliating mask. Most people think that when it's a mask, it's something that's used at the end of a treatment. Now, this is just the name of this product. The idea that it says it's a mask, it doesn't mean anything. It could just say it's an exfoliant. This one, as I said, it has a little bit of glycolic in it. It has lemon peel powder and the papaya enzyme. It also has a little chamomile. And I've added healing gel, so it's a little bit, it's diluted. I don't need to do a really strong exfoliant on Kritika. On a drier skins, on a drier skin, They don't need to have too much of an exfoliant. You just want a light exfoliant just to get rid of that dryness, the dry outer layer, because by exfoliating her skin, it's going to allow the treatment products and the treatment serums that I put on her skin hereafter to just be better and be better absorbed into her skin. I'm very much a believer in, I work with my hands a lot. A lot of people will put their exfoliant on with a brush, and that's absolutely fine. I'm not here to tell you how to do your facials. I'm here to show you what I do and what works for me. And then it's up to you to design and create your own fabulous facial. But for me, I like to work with my hands, and so I massage everything into the skin. I'm a huge believer in massage because I know it not only brings oxygen to the blood, but it really stimulates muscle tone. So I'm a huge believer in massaging, and as much as I can, I'm going to be massaging my client's skin. It changes their skin, so I'm a huge believer in that. You want to make sure the areas that we really cover with the exfoliant is in here between the eyebrows. You want to make sure you're getting around the sides of the nose really well, because usually most people are a little bit oily, if not a lot oily, and they do tend to have blackheads and open pores around their nose area. So also what I like to do is I like to do the eyebrow, because this area here gets a lot of sun because it does protrude, and most people have a little freckles here on their just under the eyebrow, on the bone there. So it's really important to also to exfoliate and to take care of that area as well. So what we are not doing is we're not taking the exfoliant too close up under her eye. If she was more oily, I might, often very oily skins, they have blackheads that go up very close up under the eye area. So I will make sure that I'm cleaning it really well in there with the exfoliant. But also we don't want to let it dry too much, because on a drier skin, you don't want to let anything dry on the skin, masks and things. You just want to constantly be hydrating it. And if you do have a mask that is going to dry on the skin, then you want to make sure underneath it that you've got hydrating serums and things, so that you just don't want to dry the skin out anymore. So generally, and I won't say all the time, but generally I do not allow masks to dry on the skin either. So it is just something, again, this is how I do my treatments, and I do them this way because this is something that I've done for 40 years, and it's something that I know works. So it's how I have built my clientele, because I get results for my clients, and that's what we all want. We want to see results. We all want to stay looking younger longer, and we want our skin to be really pretty, and that's what we all want. Now, as I remove this with the sponges, my water is not that hot. You don't want to have, when you're working with AHAs, you don't want to have water that is too hot, because it's going to sting. So everything might be a little bit cool, and that's nice, because that's what feels comfortable to the client as well. Now, some exfoliants and some acids, they're too strong to use on the neck. So it's very important to be conscious, because for us Estes, we need to be working from here up. We need to be working on the neck area. We also need to be working on the décolleté, because the décolleté gets a lot of sun, especially if you're not covering and protecting your décolleté when you're driving. It's pelting through, that sun is pelting through the windshield, and it really messes up this area here. So you want to make sure that if you're not protecting your neck and décolleté, either by using a scarf when you're driving, they have those really light, beautiful scarves that have the SPF in the fabric. You want to make sure that you're using an SPF that is maybe in a retractable brush, that is a powder that you can brush onto that area, or you want to be using a piece of clothing that zips up, that's really protecting it, because it isn't something you think about when you're younger, but when you get older, it's a really hard area to treat. And you can do something like an IPL, a photofacial, which of course gives the skin a little bit of a boost, but it's still a laser. So, you know, you want to be protecting. It's not something that you can do really strong chemical peels. We can do those kind of peels on the face, but you cannot do them on the neck and the décolleté. The neck is a very sensitive area. it is a really hard area to treat. The décolleté is also equally more difficult because it's a thinner skin and there's not a lot you can do once the damage is there. You can certainly improve it a lot and improve the ruddiness by doing something like an IPL, which they call photofacials also, and that is the one laser that I think and believe is okay to do because it's a boost. It's not buffering the levels back, it's not making the skin really sensitive. It's something that's really important. So we're just going to, so I'm going to work on the décolleté as well, the neck area as well, and this is an area that we're going to, work in some of the flavonoids now, and we're going to start strengthening that skin. So what I have here is the Q Flavonoid. The Q Flavonoid, and I've spoken about it a lot, I use it a lot in treatments. There are other flavonoids out there that are also wonderful, but what the flavonoid is it really helps support blood vessels, and we want things that are going to really help support little blood vessels to help strengthen that capillary wall so that it doesn't break later. So we want to strengthen it and just keep the skin really healthy underneath. So what I'm going to do, I like to use this around the eye area because a lot of people get color around the eyes, and we want to make sure that it's something that you can work with really well around the eye area, because the eye area, the skin is a lot thinner than other parts of the face. And often if you stretch that eye area, the skin, you can see the blue vein underneath. So we really want to make sure it's a thinner skin, a very different skin. It does not have sebaceous activity close up around the eye. That means there's no oil directly up close around the eye area. Of course you can get it on the sides and the nose where there's blackheads, but up close under the eye, we don't have oil. So it's a thinner skin, it doesn't have oil, and we really want to protect it, and we really want to work in treatment products so that it's really helping that darkness around the eye area. So I'm working it in here with a Q-tip first because I want to get up close around that area. Then I'm going to start working it into the rest of her face. It's quite dark in color, as most flavonoids are dark in color, things that sort of help support capillaries and circulation in the skin. They are quite dark. That's your vitamin K, your vitamin P, your arnica. It all has quite a bit of color in it. Now when you have puffiness around the eye, it's good. You don't want to take too much of your eye product in towards the tear duct. So you have to take a little bit of it out. You've got to drain it down to your lymph nodes, and then we drain it again down the neck and out to the big lymph nodes under the armpit. So you just want to be sort of conscious of puffiness. Often you can go in a little bit, but most of it, a lot of it, you have to drain it to the side, and being very gentle, because you could do it in a tapping motion if you like, just very gentle, just to move it out. And you could do it as I'm doing something like this. You can do it this way, but if you are pulling that area, you want to be very gentle, because the eye area is a thin skin and you don't want to be pulling it around too much. Okay, so now with the other end of my Q-tip, I'm going to use the eye gel, and I'm going to put a little bit of that around the eye area too. We're putting that over top here, so we're sort of really taking care of that eye area before we move on. We're seeing Kritika's brown spot is looking, it's definitely lightened up, especially quite a lot here on this side. So we're, when you're working with the brown spot treatment product, it's important to just use it just within the brown spot. Don't use it on the areas that where there's no brown. You want to go within the brown area itself. Okay, the next product I'm going to use on Kritika, we've got the Q Flavonoid on, we've got it around her eyes, we've got her eye gel around her eyes. I'm going to use the Retinol Serum. So it's quite yellow in color. This one here she has at home too. And we're going to start working in the retinol, because what we know retinol does is it gives the skin a boost, and it helps to lighten brown spots, it helps with aging, it helps to lessen the depth of a wrinkle. Retinols are something that require some weaning onto. You can't always use retinol every single night when you first start using retinols, depending on the product that you have and how strong it is. Ours is almost like a cosmeceutical strength, so it's not, it's not a really light one. It is something that's quite active. So sometimes you might only just start weaning into it by using it 2 or 3 nights a week over top of your serum. And then as you use it more and more, it depends on your skin. If you are someone of a darker skin, then you can generally use it much more without having the sensitivity and the irritation. So a lighter skin person, it will require some weaning onto, usually in the beginning. So I like to work my serums into the skin for a little bit before I then apply my treatment creams. You want to make sure you get it into your nasal labial lines here on the sides, and that you're really just sort of getting under any fine facial hair. You want to make sure that you're really getting into this area here, because this is an area where I like to do a really good strong massage around the jaw, because this is an area that is where we start jarling, and it's an area where the gravity starts pulling things down. Okay, so we've worked that in for a couple of minutes. Now I'm going to add my hydrating mask, which is what I like to use for my massage cream. I added to my hydrating mask a little bit of my massage oil. The massage oil that I'm using has a little bit of gamma-linolenic acid in it, which comes from evening primrose oil. And I'm just adding a little bit as I tend to add a drop or 2 of my oils as we move to the cooler months. It's very nice for sensitive skin, and it's a very light oil. It's a non-comedogenic oil, but I don't generally use a lot of oil on the skin, but when I'm working in treatment, sometimes on the neck and the décolleté, which is a sensitive area, I like to work with some different things that are going to help just hydrate and help those areas. Now at this point, you could also use a little bit of steam if you choose. If I'm using steam, and I do like to use steam, I don't have it too close to the skin. I like to have it quite far away, and I generally like to work with it when I'm doing my massage. But I do have it at a distance because I don't want the skin to get too hot and perspire, because then the skin can become dehydrated, which is what we don't want to do. So a little steam is nice at a distance, but as soon as your skin starts to get hot and perspire, then the skin can become dehydrated. So you don't want to do too much of that. Now on Kritika's skin, I would not peel her brown spots. My peeling formula that I've done on some of my other clients, which has been Carol and who else? And Kelly, I think we peeled as well. They're a different kind of skin. So when you're dealing with melasma and brown spots, you have to be very careful, because sometimes if you do a peel on those types of spots, it can make the brown spot worse. So I would prefer that she work with her treatment products, her lightening and brightening products for home, and work on her brown spots that way, rather than do a strong peel. If she was a very fair skin like myself, I might think differently, and I might make a different decision and peel that kind of a spot. But on Kritika's skin, because she has a little color in her skin, a really pretty skin, but she's got more pigment, it's not worth messing with. So I would prefer to go the slower route, but make sure I'm not going to make her pigment worse. So that's why I'm not going to do a peel on Kritika. Kritika's skin is very, very clean. She has a really clean skin. What we're going to do now is we're going to leave the Q Flavonoid and the Retinol serum on her face, and then I'm going to mix up a pearl silk mask, and we're going to be doing a pearl silk over top of it. So I'm not going to take these products off. Sometimes I do take the products off, and then do an AHA on the skin. But because Kritika has her home care regimen and she's using retinols and she's using the little AHA, which is in the de-clearing formula as well, the de-clearing gel, this little tiny bottle here, I'm just going to do a Pearl Silk on her, which is a brightening treatment, and then she's going to continue on with her home care regimen. So we're going to leave that on her skin right now. Okay, we're going to mix up the mask. So what we have here is we have the two powders, and we've mixed, this is a Pearl Silk treatment. The two powders are dry, and we're mixing them together, and you have to mix them together dry. And then I'm going to prepare the skin before we apply the mask, because once you mix the mask, you add the water to the mask, you're then going to find you don't have a long time to get it on the skin before it starts starting to sort of set. So we want to make sure we prep the skin, and this is how I prep the skin is I tear a tissue, I put it around the hairline like this and have it stick to the face. Then I put another tissue, or you can tear one tissue in half, put it to the sides here, because the mask is a little bit runny and you don't want it to get onto your towels because it's really hard to get off. So we're going to do that. And then I'm going to put, Kritika doesn't have a lot of eyelashes. She has the little individuals on, but they're nearing the end of her, she'll probably, whether she does it again or not. So I'm not going to worry about her eyelashes, in other words. I am going to be putting 2 dampened cotton pads over top of her eye, because we don't want it running into the eye area as I'm applying it. So we're putting this over her eyes. Alrighty. So now we're going to add the water to the 2 powders. Now it's like mixing a cake. Don't want to mix too much or the powder goes everywhere. So, and my bowl I'm using is a rubber bowl. It's much easier if you work with the rubber bowls and the disposable spatulas. Okay, so we've got the nice smooth texture now. And now we're going to apply it. So what's nice is you can squeeze the rubber bowl. See how I'm squeezing it here? So it helps me maneuver it around. That way I can get it on. I want to make sure I get it really close. I want to get it down onto her brow bone a little bit, because remember she had a few little freckles there. The great thing about the Pearl Silk treatment is it is a brightening treatment, and it's a really nice, it's a professional product. It's obviously would be very messy trying to do it yourself at home. So for us Estes, it's a really nice mask to be able to do on our clients. It's hydrating. It's a very nice one in the winter months, especially because it is hydrating to the skin. And it doesn't set really tight, like it's not drying, but it does set, but it's more rubbery, and it's hydrating, so the skin looks really pretty afterwards and nice and hydrated. Okay, we are going to go above her lip and just be very careful there, getting it on. It's nice to be always treating the lip, doing everything on the lip, working in treatment products, exfoliating the lip, because often a lot of people get very grey around the mouth area and especially above the lip. So it's nice to make sure that you treat that area with all your treatment products. Don't forget about that area. I'm going to stand so I can see where it's going down on the neck. Make sure we've got that brown spot well on that side, and just the very tip of the nose. Okay, and that's nice. We've got below her eyebrow there. You can see the mask is below her eyebrow, so we know we're getting that area that really needs it, where she has a few little brown spots from some sun damage. And then what I like to do is I like to take a tissue and I place it over top of the mask, separate the tissue, and just this holds it in place, but it also allows me to put my hands on and kind of press down without getting a bunch of goop on my hands. So here we're doing the same here, putting this on, and the same on the chin area. And we're separating our tissue, and that way it just allows me to be able to push down on the mask and make sure we're sort of working it into the skin there a bit. Okay, so now we're going to leave this on Kritika. At this point in time, you could do a mask on the décolleté. You could also do a hand and a foot massage, so that would be nice. So we're just going to cover up. Kritika has some of the hydrating treatment on her décolleté, so I'm still going to leave that on there, and I'm just going to cover up so her décolleté doesn't get cold, and we'll be back shortly to take off her mask. I'm going to leave it on her skin about 8 minutes. Okay, so we are back here. We're going to take off Kritika's mask. Remember, this mask we have on is called the Pearl Silk Mask. It is, pearls are very lightening and brightening to the skin. They've been known to brighten the skin back in the Cleopatra days. It's a really nice mask, this particular one, and I really like it because of its brightening effect. It's also really hydrating, and that's so important, especially moving into the cooler months. So we're going to take this off. Underneath the mask, we did put on a little bit of the Q Flavonoid. We also put on some of the retinol, and so we're going to take this off now and finish up with her treatment. So we're taking it off. It comes off in a sheet, one full sheet here. So we have her skin is looking, you can see we haven't done anything, we've just taken it off the skin. I'm going to just remove a little bit of the bits and pieces of the mask that do collect around the hairline, but you can see her skin looks really hydrated, and just see how pretty her skin looks, and see how much lighter her brown spot is on the side of her face, the little one over here as well as the larger one. It is looking really nice. So we're just going to remove, we're not going to wipe the whole face off, but we are just going to work a little bit around the sides, the hairline and the nose. So when you use that mask that I just put on the face, all your lines, you want to have the mask quite thick, because if you can see the skin a little bit through the mask, it's going to probably stay there and not come off in a clean sweep. So you want to make sure that your lines, your edges of your mask are thicker so that it does come off in a clean sweep. So you're not having to go back and do an abundance of cleanup and take off too much of what you've just put on, because it has obviously a purpose. Everything we put on our client's skin has a purpose on the skin and benefits. So we just want to just clean off the excess of the mask that we've just used on her. It does often get into the hair a little bit, so that's why it's really important. That's why I wrap a tissue around the hair, and still I get a little bit in the hair, but it certainly saves on a lot. So I'm just cleaning around the hairline here now. Okay, so we can see how pretty her skin looks. It's really nice. It feels really good. It's not dry. Like often when you take off a mask, the skin feels really dry. It feels really nice and hydrated. So what we're going to do is put on our Q Flavonoid. We're going to put a little bit more of our retinol on again, and then a very nourishing cream that is going to be her home care for this evening, because it is nighttime over here. And both Kritika and I were at work today. It's Sunday, but we do work a lot on Sundays as busy girls. So we're just putting a little bit of the Q Flavonoid, We're going to make sure we certainly get it on those brown spots because it does help aid in the lightening of brown spots. So it's really important that we use it and we get it onto those brown spots. And again, up around the eye area. Remember, we did not wash it off before we put the mask on this time. So we're layering. We're putting several layers of our treatment product on the skin, and her skin looks really, really good. So now this is our retinol serum, which is quite yellow in color, as most retinols are. Again, make sure we get it on our brown spots and get it into all those, any little fine lines. Now we're putting a little bit more eye gel back around the eye area. The eye gel, the reason I'm using the eye gel is because it's really good for darkness. It again has a lot of the ingredients in it that really help support little capillaries. And as we mentioned before, with darkness around the eyes, it needs that support for the little blood vessels. So it's also very hydrating, the gel, and it's really nice. And it's important to use something around your eyes twice a day, morning and night. And the next product we're using, we're using the other end of the Q-tip, is the Nourishing Cream. And this is going to be her nighttime moisturizer for tonight. So we're going to put this on her skin and then she's all finished. Okay, so she has her treatment product on. And to take off her headpiece, her skin is nice and hydrated, nice and shiny right now as it's sucking all of these great products into her skin, and her skin looks really pretty, and her brown spot is lighter, a little bit lighter even after today's treatment, but very small amount. So she's going to continue working at home with her retinol. She's going to continue using her declearing gel, that little bottle of the declearing, which is what helps lighten her brown spots. And then what we'll do is we'll have Kritika come back in a couple of months. So she's had a couple of months of just working with the declearing gel so we can see how much lighter we can get her brown spots. So Kritika, thank you so much for coming in again today, and thank you so much everybody for joining us for another Ask Nerida Joy video. If you look at my Instagram, you will see updates on there too. I might snap a couple of Kritika along the way, put them up there so we see how she's doing. And so please follow my Instagram to keep up with things as well. So thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you again really soon. Bye.